Who says you can't learn anything valuable during a bye week? I'd say we learn some stuff. We talk about Jordan Watkins and we get a head start on the Auburn Tigers. It's the Locked On Ole Miss podcast.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. And the Ole Miss Rebels take on the Auburn Tigers Saturday at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time from Jordan-Hare Stadium. It's a chance to listen to David Kellum and the Rebels' hometown crew as Ole Miss looks to continue their run. Catch every play of the hometown broadcast on SiriusXM on channel 191 or on the SXM app searching Ole Miss Rebels. Hello, I'm Stephen Willis, and this is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. And I do want to let you know that you need to download the Game Time ticketing app to create an account and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. This will be a very big deal with Texas A&M and Vanderbilt coming up shortly. So download that, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, and you'll get $20 off your first purchase as well. All right, there's a lot of stuff that I want to get into, and I think we should probably go ahead and just start with the Jordan Watkins stuff because I didn't really want to talk about it. But what we learned this weekend, we're going to get a head start in the Auburn game, and if Ole Miss plays well, it's just better than Auburn right now. And a fast start will be required for an Auburn team versus an Auburn team with zero confidence at the moment. And what will Ole Miss do now since Jordan Watkins seems out? We know that something happened with Jordan Watkins. We're not exactly 100% sure how severe and all of that because Ole Miss is notoriously stingy with injury news. So we're going off of what the janitor is saying in the indoor practice facility in the Manning Center. And we're going off the information that Jordan Watkins did something to his hand. It required surgery, and he will be out for an unknown amount of time. That is what we think we know at the moment. Now, here's the thing. Jordan Watkins is a very, very good football player, and he has been Mr. Consistency for Ole Miss during this season. During this 5-0 run, he has been a major part in it. Without Jordan Watkins, Ole Miss probably does not beat Arkansas, okay? That said, with what happens, and if what happens is what I think is going to happen, Ole Miss is not going to fall very much further back with Jordan Watkins at not playing wide receiver. This isn't a slight at Jordan Watkins. It's just a attaboy for who I think is going to replace him. And let's go ahead and put this up real quick. I think Dayton Wade is going to move inside and play slot. He's got 27 catches, 390 yards, and 2 touchdowns on the year. He actually slots in at the slot position at the next level, more so than on the outside. He's a little bit undersized. He's been playing very well, which has kept Zachary Franklin potentially on the bench. This is going to open up. You're going to have a situation where Ole Miss wants Trey Harris to play, Dayton Wade in the slot, and on the outside, Zachary Franklin. That is what I think Ole Miss wants to happen with Caden Prieskorn, who is also coming back from a bereavement leave going into the Auburn game. I look at Ole Miss's wide receiver unit, and I think they should be okay. Whenever I look at this, one of your better wide receivers in the year is going to be the guy that comes inside and replaces Jordan Watkins. And before anybody says, well, you're going to have to learn a new position, Dayton Wade knows the position. It was a situation to where he's playing out wide because Jordan Watkins just adapted to slot a little bit more. So we'll see what happens with Dayton Wade in this part of the season. If for whatever reason, and I'm not saying anything about timetable of when Jordan Watkins is due back, okay? I'm not playing that game yet because it's all just guesswork at this point. But getting through Alabama and LSU with Jordan Watkins and Arkansas with Jordan Watkins, that was a big deal for Ole Miss football to be 5-1 at the turn And if something was going to happen, I guess now's as good a time as any. But Jordan Watkins being out will be detrimental. It will not be fatal. It does not change the trajectory of Ole Miss's football team one game. Ole Miss is still going to be favored to beat Auburn. They're still going to be favored to beat Vandy. They're still going to be favored against Texas A&M. They're still going to be favored against Louisiana Monroe, and they're still going to be favored against Mississippi State, and they're still going to be an underdog to Georgia. With or without Jordan Watkins, that was happening. It's not going to move the point spread up or down as high as you would think it would. It's not going to have the tangible effect that even losing somebody like Trey Harris or Quinshon Judkins or Jaxson Dart, that effect would actually move the line and affect the win totals moving forward. Jordan Watkins, as good of a player he is and how important he is for Ole Miss's offense, it's not quite there yet. Jordan Watkins has turned into a heck of a safety blanket for Jaxson Dart. He just has. And knowing that, that is the thing that Dayton Wade is going to have to feel. Not necessarily the routes and the concepts and things out of the slot. The safety blanket and the trust that Jordan Watkins had with Jaxson Dart, Dayton Wade needs to be that same way. And Dayton Wade has a good bit of that rapport with him already. So I expect Dayton Wade to have a decent day going into it. Jaxson Dart this season, he's currently 107 for 167. He's thrown for 1,638 yards, 12 touchdowns, and 2 picks. He's the second best quarterback in the Southeastern Conference. He may be the best quarterback in the Southeastern Conference, but with the way Jaden Daniels is playing right now, I just don't know, because Jaden Daniels is playing at a special level. And Auburn had a severe amount of trouble with LSU's offense, which everybody's had a severe amount of trouble with LSU's offense. So we'll see exactly what happens. Now, we're going to talk about what we learned from the Auburn versus LSU game in the next segment. And we're going to talk about some high-level stuff. Go ahead and get into that game since we're coming off of a bye week. What did we learn from the LSU-Auburn game? But it will be important to realize as this week goes on that we're in a situation where if Ole Miss plays its best, Auburn cannot win the game. They can't. Auburn's best and Ole Miss best, Auburn can't win the game. If Ole Miss plays very well, very good, I don't know if Arkansas can keep up scoring-wise. So what Auburn is going to need to do is to make this game sloppy and to make this game slow. I think you're going to see Robbie Ashford take most of the snaps at quarterback, or the third string quarterback if they want to get him ready to go for the stretch of games for them to go to a bowl game that they need to hit on. If they want that Birmingham Bowl that Hugh Freeze took Ole Miss to in 2012, maybe they get a quarterback ready in position to do that. We're going to talk about that in the next segment because there's some confidence issues. Ole Miss should definitely win this game. That's not even a concern. Ole Miss needs to play poorly to lose this game, but we'll talk about that in just a second. But right now, I do want to let you know that this show is brought to you by the Game Time ticketing app, gametime.co. You shouldn't have to worry about when you're buying your tickets for your next big time event. Game Time is fast and easy, and it's the way to buy the tickets for all these sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. Easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area. All in prices. Show your total up front so you know what you're getting, a great deal without hidden fees. You can buy tickets in seconds with 2 taps. Click, click, you're there. It's over. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. You can download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LockOnCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Also, Prize Picks is the most fun that I've had winning up to 25 times my money this football season. Seriously. You just select 2 or more players, pick more or less than their projected stats, and place your entry. Just Jaden Daniels with LSU, like against Auburn, is like more. It was like that Star Wars meme with Kylo Ren. Prize Picks is really simple and easy to play. I can make my picks and submit my entry in less than 60 seconds. You're gone in 60 seconds, for lack of a better word. That Jaden Daniels against Auburn, Malik Neighbors, even Logan Diggs against Auburn, just basically betting in that game that LSU's offense is going to do more than their stats are predicting was easy money. That was the easiest money you could win. So go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege and use code LockedOnCollege for your first deposit matchup to $100. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege and use promo code LockedOnCollege, LockEdonCollege for your first deposit matchup to $100. Daily fantasy sports made easy. College football season is here, and this season Locked On is kicking up our coverage with Locked On College Football Kickoff. Friday, each Locked On channel will go live at 11 a.m. Eastern with Locked On College Football Kickoff Live with Drake Toll and Kenton Gibbs and Alex Dono and those guys. College Football Kickoff Live will cover playoff implications, conference rivalry games, and go in depth like only Locked On can, including insight and analysis from our stable of Locked On College hosts covering their team every day. Find Locked On College Football Kickoff Live every Friday at 11 a.m. on any Locked On College YouTube channel. You will not want to miss it. All right. So in the first segment, we talked a little bit about the Jordan Watkins stuff. And in this second segment, we're going to get into the Auburn stuff because the Auburn stuff's kind of important with them being the game at the end of the week. Here's a look at what we learned. You know, Ole Miss, if they play well, is just better than Auburn right now. Yeah, if Ole Miss plays well, Auburn can't win the game. A fast start will be required versus an Auburn team with zero confidence right now. You can't let the crowd. Auburn plays different at home. Okay? The one thing that you need to worry, and we all wanted 11 a.m. We did for just this reason. And you'll have a situation to where Auburn plays at a higher level because of the energy given to them through that crowd. I've talked to people over at Auburn, contacts that I've made over the years, and they all just uniformly mention the fan base is kind of down right now, but they're going to be up Saturday night, and it's going to be a cauldron. And Brother Hugh is going to be drawing up some ball plays that night to victimize the Pete Golding defense. Auburn is going to make plays. This game gets difficult if you get off to a slow start. That Lane Kiffin script that we always talk about, him and Charlie Weis, just a fantastic script, going down the field and scoring a touchdown like they did against LSU, that needs to be a functional part of the game plan against Auburn. Because in 2021, granted, Matt Corral got hurt and Ole Miss had no wide receivers. I understand all of that. But if you also remembered, it was like 21-3 at the start of the game. Auburn had all the momentum. Ole Miss fought to come back, and the defense played well, and Ole Miss got back into the football game. But the damage was done by the energy that was already in that place. Be careful. You need a fast start. A team without confidence, you cannot give it to them. This is your free space, everybody. We're going to talk about keys tomorrow. We're going to talk about what to watch for Wednesday. We're going to have our crossover with Zach Blackerby on Thursday. And Friday, I'm going to tell you why Ole Miss wins the game. I mean, we're back to our normal game week schedule. But the free space that I'm going to give you today is do not give a team with zero confidence. Because right now, if you jump on them, if you just get them, I'm not saying they're not going to play hard. I'm saying the belief is not there. They're going to play hard because they're prideful bunch of people. Division I athletes as a whole usually are. But the belief that the effort that they are putting out is going to be enough will not be there. It is going to be important for Ole Miss to play very well. Defensively, listen, we all saw that LSU defense. We all understand what happened there. Ole Miss gained over 700 yards against that defense and put up 55 points. Almost had them ready to quit. Auburn gained less than 300 yards against that group of players, 18 points. Now, they schemed some stuff up to go down the field because Hugh's always going to be able to scheme things up from time to time. He just is. We all remember that. We've been a part of the Hugh Freeze experience. So it is very interesting. But the free space is you're playing a team with zero confidence. Don't let them get confident. If you let them get confident and get in the game, it's going to be a war. It's going to be a dogfight. And this is not a shot at Auburn, okay? Any Auburn fans that are listening to this show, this is not a shot at Auburn. This is me relating to Ole Miss fans in a way that they would understand. When David Cutcliffe was here, whenever you played Vandy always seemed like they played up to Ole Miss. And that is because they believed they could win. It was a self-fulfilling prophecy. It was such a dogfight because that was a game that was circled on their calendar. This is a game that is circled on Auburn's calendar. It can be a dogfight if you let it be one. But the number one thing is they have to get confidence at the beginning of the game for it to be a dogfight. If you go out there and take care of business in the beginning, you're probably going to be fine. I'm not saying they're going to quit. I'm saying that in college football, once they realize the effort is not good enough, it will not be good enough. It will be a self-fulfilling prophecy. So get out there, jump on them early, play clean, no turnovers. If you do that, you should be fine as well. Now, I do also want to point out that the rankings came out. The AP poll, Ole Miss did not move. They're number 13. Ole Miss got jumped by Oregon State. And we'll talk about that in just a second. Ole Miss was 12th in the coaches' poll. So the national media, well, I'm not even going to say the national media, the beat writers that participate in the AP poll, they have decided that the really cool narrative will be that the Pac-12 is the best conference in college football this year, which they're at the point this year that the SEC always has to go through, and that is they beat each other up. Oregon State beat UCLA, who was ranked like 19th or 20th in the country. Oregon State was like 16th. Oregon State now has 2 wins over ranked teams, just like Ole Miss. Ole Miss has a win over Tulane, who is ranked at the moment, and they have a win over LSU, who is ranked at the moment. Oregon State has a win over Utah, which is a good win, and UCLA, which only dropped from like 20 to 25th. So they're still ranked at the moment as well. But the loss, Ole Miss lost to Alabama at Alabama, who is ranked currently 11th in the country. They're winning, not moving. It's beyond weird, this narrative that they're pushing at the moment. Oregon State's loss was to Washington State. Washington State is currently unranked, and this weekend got beat 44-6 by Arizona, a team that we've seen. This Mississippi State team is not good. Beat them in double overtime earlier this season. So the narrative that is being created about the strength of the Pac-12, and again, good teams out there. They've got good quarterback play. And I do think that Washington has as good a chance to win the national championship as anybody right now. Period. But Oregon State had no business making that jump. The teams that lost in front of Ole Miss, they should have fell behind Ole Miss. Ole Miss should be right now about 11th in the country, honestly. Alabama should be easily in the top 10, but they're not because the narrative has been established by people that the SEC is down. Everybody needs to prepare themselves. If Ole Miss goes 12-1, they're going to finish 5th. Everybody needs to be prepared for that possibility. It's all set up. The breadcrumbs are all the way out for people to look at things. And the SEC being down, and in this case, Ole Miss will have 2 wins over Georgia. I don't know. I just don't know. I mean, Ohio State still has to play Michigan, so somebody's going to drop, but you have Washington, you have Oregon, you have a lot of teams that are ahead of Ole Miss, and not many of them are losing. So we'll see how the second half of the season goes, but that is my opinion on that. I do want to let you know that when we come back, we are going to do the lines this week. We're going to do the lines this week, and we're going to look at where Ole Miss is currently favored. But right now, I do want to let you know, now is the time for your game changer of the week, brought to you by Athletic Brewing Company. Much like Dayton Wade, the Athletic Brewing Company has completely changed the non-alcoholic beer game. They make non-alcoholic beers that actually taste good. Even though Ole Miss is coming off of bye week, they're going to go with Dayton Wade likely, because replacing Jordan Watkins will be a huge portion of Ole Miss's season moving forward. Athletic Brewing Company, they brew over 50 styles of craft beer, non-alcoholic beer, including IPAs, golden sours, and more. Ole Miss has stylistic differences at the wide receiver position, and they're constantly releasing limited edition experimental styles to add to their collection. Just like Ole Miss at the moment, but Ole Miss is doing it by injury. You can find Athletic in-store, online, and in bars in the country. They are the fastest growing non-alcoholic brewery in the U.S., so get on board. You can find Athletic Brewing Company's non-alcoholic brews at a store near you, or buy online at athleticbrewing.com. First-time customers can use code Locked On, to get 15% off your first online order. That's code LOCKEDON at checkout for $15 off at athleticbrewing.com. It's near beer. Exclusions and conditions apply. Athletic Brewing Company, fit for all times. The Rebels play the Auburn Tigers Saturday at 6 o'clock Central Time on ESPN. It's a chance to listen to David Kellum and the Rebels hometown crew as the Ole Miss Rebels look to continue their run. Catch every play of the Rebels hometown broadcast on SiriusXM channel 191 or on the SXM app searching Ole Miss Rebels. All right. Hello, I'm Stephen Willis, and this is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, and I hope everybody is doing pretty well on this Monday morning. A little bit of a tickle in my throat there. All right. So we talked about how the Jordan Watkins situation is being handled and things like that. We talked about how Auburn looked in the LSU game on Saturday. Now we're going to talk about the lines this weekend. There's only 5 SEC games. These are the Week 8 lines around the league. Mississippi State is at Arkansas. Arkansas is currently favored by 6.5 points. I mean, that's not a very big line for an Arkansas team that hasn't been good on offense. But Mississippi State is giving up quarterbacks completing about 90% of their passes at the moment. And I think Arkansas should probably cover that line pretty well. I'm probably going to take the Hogs against Mississippi State this weekend. South Carolina is at Missouri. Missouri's favored by 7. Missouri's pretty good. Missouri just kind of took it to Kentucky. Kentucky got up 14-0, and they just couldn't do anything. Mizzou just kind of swallowed them, for lack of a better word. Tennessee is at Alabama. Alabama's favored by 8.5 points. Tennessee can't throw the football. It's weird after seeing what Hendon Hooker did last season. They can't throw the football. Army is at LSU. LSU is favored by 25 points. So all these lines are going to go up and down. These are just the opening numbers at the moment. And if you look at the Ole Miss game, Ole Miss is currently favored by 7 points. The over-under is at 58.5 points. All the lines are at different places. Whenever you look at the Ole Miss Auburn line, like some places it's at like 4 and some places at 5. All of them are going to equate, and they're all going to be about the same thing by Tuesday or Wednesday. But on FanDuel, they gave Ole Miss a little bit more credit at the beginning of it. So we'll see. This Auburn Ole Miss game is weird. It's a game that before the season, I predicted Auburn to win. I didn't realize Auburn was going to be as bad as they were, especially at the quarterback position. I think that Auburn is going to play fairly well. I think their crowd is going to give them a boost. I think it's going to be a little bit of a dogfight Saturday night. That said, if Ole Miss plays as well as they normally do, if they play just 80% of their best, Ole Miss wins this going away. What Auburn needs is help. If you look at Auburn on the offensive side of the ball, it's very laborious. It looks like work. I always talk about whenever you watch a football game, look at what side looks the easiest doing something. If it looks like it's a lot of work, it probably is because it is. And that means they're having to scheme open plays instead of plays just working. They're trying to have to find the matchups that are in their favor as opposed to just calling anything and going through your progression and just playing football. Look at that Saturday night. Look at the team that it looks the easiest for. If Ole Miss doesn't help Auburn, and that means penalties, that means turnovers. If Ole Miss plays clean, not even necessarily like they did against LSU, but that they just play clean, Ole Miss is going to win this game by 2 or 3 touchdowns. If Ole Miss allows that, gives Auburn the help that they so desperately crave, you're going to be into a dogfight because this is an Auburn team that lost to Georgia 27-20. That just in the end of the game that Brock Bowers took over. They can do stuff. The offense is not particularly good, but they could do some stuff. Like I said, I expect Auburn to play with a really slow tempo to try and keep Lane's offense off the field. Real similar to what Arkansas tried to do against Ole Miss. Teams that take that tactic do so out of fear. And that is because of what happened with Ole Miss against LSU can happen to several different teams around the country. If Ole Miss gets going like they did against LSU, it's Katie bar the door. It's over. Auburn cannot score the points to get into that shootout. I don't know if Auburn could score enough points to beat Ole Miss when they played like they did against LSU if they just didn't put a defense out there. It sounds very weird, but it's absolutely true. Auburn needs help to beat you. Do not give them help. If Ole Miss can play clean, if Ole Miss can be explosive on offense, Auburn is not going to be able to keep up. But if Ole Miss turns the ball over, if they have penalties, if the offense is a little sluggish, all of a sudden it'll come down and it'll look much more like the Ole Miss Arkansas game than the Ole Miss LSU game offensively. Arkansas in the secondary, they have some ball hawks. They can turn you over. It's going to be imperative that Jaxson Dart is careful and makes the right decisions. Can't have any duck and chuck situations in this game. Ole Miss needs to play clean. Needs to play clean. No penalties, no turnovers. That is the first number one goal of this game. I'm probably going to bring it up as a key, but who knows? But that's the first thing that I'm going to look at. Anyway, thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day, including making it your Ole Miss morning show. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team, every single day. Hope everybody is pretty fired up. We get into our game week stuff. Keys to Auburn tomorrow. What to watch for Wednesday and our crossover on Thursday. Anyway, hotty toddy.